No, Algebra 1, I am your father. Welcome to day 18 of your AMI packet. I wish I had a deeper voice and could do that better. Oh man, that was fun. Okay, welcome to day 18 of your AMI packet. We are graphing quadratics. What? Make sure you tell your parents you know how to graph or find features of graphs of quadratics and see what they have to say. For this first one, I have printed this up because you guys know I can't draw worth a hoot. So I've printed this up. I've graphed this equation. I hope you can see that. Y equals x squared minus 6x plus 10. And I've gone ahead and this is the graph of that quadratic. So there are a couple of things we're going to look at. First of all, we have to find the vertex, which is an ordered pair. We have to tell if that's a minimum or a maximum. And then we also have to see if there are any zeros. And I'm going to explain what all that means. Okay, first your vertex. Okay, your vertex of your graph is kind of like the turning point of your graph. It's either the very, very bottom point of your graph or the very, very top of your graph. So whenever this is called a parabola. Okay, so when your parabola opens up, we have a vertex right here on this graph. So your vertex, is this point right here. It's your very, very kind of turning point. It's the very bottom of your graph. And in this graph, that vertex has a coordinate of 3, 1. I have to go right 3, up 1 to get to it. So my vertex is at 3, 1. Okay? Now we have to decide if that's a minimum or a maximum. So for this graph, a minimum is the least value. Minimum means that it's the bottom of your graph. So for this one, this has a minimum. If it were a maximum, it would open up the other way and it'd be the very top of your graph. But these extend in infinity, so there's not really a top of my graph. But I do have a bottom. So this vertex at 3, 1 is a minimum. Minimum. I spell good. G-U-D, good. Minimum. And then I have to see if there are any zeros. Now the zeros of a quadratic, or of any graph really, is where it crosses the x-axis. So this graph in particular doesn't cross the x-axis, so I have no zeros. Right there. Okay? Let's look at our next one. All right, so here's my next graph. This is the graph of y equals negative x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay, so let's look at what our vertex is. For this one, since it opens down, I have a vertex right here. My vertex is at 1, 2, meaning I have to go right 1, up 2 to get to my vertex. So 1, 2, there's my vertex. Now this one opens down, so it keeps going to an infinity all the way down here. So this is going to be a maximum. That's the maximum point that I can reach on this graph. So that vertex is a maximum. Okay, and then let's look at zeros. Okay, this has 2 zeros in it, in that it crosses the x-axis twice. Now for this lesson, and we're just going to approximate those zeros. There's a way you can find them exactly, but we're not going to worry about that today. We're going to approximate these zeros about where they cross the x-axis. So this graph crosses the x-axis right here, and then it crosses again right there. Okay, so I'm going to approximate those. So for my zeros, since those are crossing the x-axis, I'm going to put x equals. Now my first zero is at x equals about a negative 0.5, a negative 1/2. And it doesn't matter how you write that, negative 1/2, or you can put x equals negative 0.5, okay? That's my first 0, where it crosses the x. My second 0 is at about 2.5. Okay, so x equals 2.5, or you can put x equals 2.5. Okay, so there's my second graph. Let's look at one more. My handy dandy duct tape. I'm sure they had duct tape in space on the Death Star. It was held together by duct tape. That's a little known fact. Not many people know that. All right, my vertex of this one, this is y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3x minus 3. So this is the graph for that. My vertex is at 1, 2, 3, up 1.5. So my vertex for this one is at 3, 1.5. Okay, and again, that's an estimation for this. That is a maximum. And then my zeros. I have a couple of zeros where this crosses my x-axis right there and right there. So for my zeros, x is equal to, this 0 right here is about, I don't know, 1.3 by my estimation. So there's 1 there at 1 1/3 or 1.3. This other 0 is at 1, 2, 3, 4.7. Okay. If you're going to be real technical, it'd be 4.6 repeating. I'm going to round that up to 4.7. And those are the zeros of this graph. All right, guys. May the force be with you.